What really caught my attention too as I was doing the days of Noah is I began to recognize that a lot of the language that I hear coming out of the prophetic community was Tabernacles language.
Okay.
Things that were involved or associated with the Feast of Tabernacles. And then I realized that all of these things, like the glory.
Yes.
You know,
because we all talk about that.
We're contending for the glory. I mean the real glory.
Yeah.
The kind of glory that Solomon saw. And if you do a little in-depth study, you find out that Solomon, in the Feast of Tabernacles, dedicated his temple. We know that Solomon's temple was a picture of this temple. We are the temple of God now, as Paul said. And so that whole perspective of when they began to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles and began to offer the sacrifices and the praise, and the singers and the praisers came in together in one accord, and all these wonderful attributes, then the glory descended, so much so that the priest could not stand to minister. That is a picture of the last day generation entering into the Tabernacles celebration, if you will, prophetic implications of Tabernacles, coming to a place of realization, and the glory of God will literally, and we find out that there are scriptures that are talking about the end of the age, and every one of them are references to God's people being illuminated.
Okay.
Say, remember?
Yes.
Arise, shine,
Yes.
because your glory has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. It says in Daniel chapter 12 that once we begin to apprehend the revelations of the book that was sealed in those days but revealed today, we will shine like the brightness of the expanse of heaven and lead many to righteousness.
Now on that you talked about this Feast of the Open Book.
Right.
Just touch on that, because
Well,
we'll come back to that.
It's an interesting little mystery, you know. We find over in the book of Deuteronomy, when Moses came to the end of his life, he gave them a new command. And he said, now, not in the wilderness, not in Pentecost, but in Tabernacles, once you cross over, I want you to take the book of the covenant during the Feast of Tabernacles and articulate it before the people of God. And it was a picture of the fullness of the revelation of God coming at the end of the age, at the time that we celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. And you might say, well, don't we have that now? We discovered that some things were concealed in the days of Daniel.
Yes.
Clearly says in two places in Daniel, those things would not be revealed until the very last day, the generation immediately prior to the Lord's return. And so therefore we're waiting for these hidden mysteries to be revealed, the secrets of the kingdom. And I think we're beginning to see that unfold, and we realize, oh my, God himself is not going to just anoint us. He's going to take up residence in us.
Wow.
And of course, you know, a person might say, well, I got the Holy Spirit when I got the Pentecost. Well, Paul said in Ephesians chapter 1 that was a pledge, an earnest towards the fullness.
Wow.
And so a down payment.
Yes.
And so there's something beyond. And that's what John G. Lake discovered. If I can just pick him as an example. John G. Lake lived the Pentecostal experience, had been healed by God, began to minister salvation and healing and deliverance on a scale that few of that generation had ever seen. According to his own admission, he said that cancers were withering up and falling off of people right in front of people from the stage. And yet he said he hungered for God more then than he ever had before. Now, we would have thought we had arrived at that point. Yeah,
that's true.
But he said he contended for whatever it was that his soul longed for. And he discovered it 9 months later. He said, I sat down in a chair to pray for a woman, and he said, the tangible, visible, resident glory of God came upon me and within me. And this is his language. He said, then I became a Christ man. And that seems like very strange language, but I understand it now in the context of, and he clearly, in his sermons, which we have a very good transcription of, clearly delineated that experience from the Pentecostal. I mean, he clearly acknowledged it was an entirely different experience in God than what he had before, even though he was praying for the sick, speaking in tongues, and seeing deliverances and salvations. And that's when the Lord said, this is a picture of the bride's revival.